What are some of the other things, Jim, maybe you can answer this. What are some of the other things, like two to three things that clients are wanting today that they weren't necessarily asking for 5 years ago?
I think it's that experience of life journey.
Mm,
And to be a life journey guide, it's the walking, it's looking at the family. We see a lot now of pre-retirement and retirement couples saying, I got to make sure that my kids are okay because to be able to afford housing, to be able to afford even close or anywhere close to the lifestyle that we've raised them to is going to be extremely difficult, especially in four or five of the major markets here in Canada, just with housing alone. And so I think it's that not just looking at what's the immediate need that we need to solve with the product, to looking out 30, 50 plus years of saying, let's get us through retirement, but let's look at the next one or two generations and make sure that they can successfully do the same thing in their own retirement goals.
yeah. Now, Johnny, you spent a long time in your career assisting advisors with whether it's tool implementation or figuring out how to improve their businesses and how to utilize all these things that are changing in the world. I would love to know what you feel about the change between the relationships between advisors and clients because of this rise in whether it's digital first tools. You talked about robo advice, and how the change in the amount of information that the clients have access to is changing that relationship.
Yeah. So great question. And so, I mean, think of it today with these tools like Conquest Planning, clients actually have access to their plan. It's no longer just presenting to them, they
Mhm.
have access to their plan, right? So, some of the major changes you're seeing is it's a financial plan does not become any more a nice to have, it's a must, right? So now advisors are not going in where before they were saying, John, you know what? I'm actually not going to do a plan. I don't think they need it. I'm fine. I'm fine just to talk about products and let's see where that goes. That I don't think that's I don't think that can happen anymore because the client is so knowledgeable,
Mhm.
right? And so because of a tool like Conquest Planning that has so much to offer to the client before even going to the advisor, right? So now all of a sudden clients are saying, I want the plan. I don't want just solutions. I want options. Don't just give me solutions. I want options. And I think the biggest change that advisors have been seeing is the client wants to be in control.
Mhm.
The client wants to own their financial well being, their financial health, whatever we want to call it. But where years ago, I have a great trusted advisor, he'll tell me what I need to do. Now he's going to, as Jim said, he's going to guide me. He's going to guide me. I'm going to make the decisions. My wife and
Mhm.
I, my partner and I are going to make decisions. The client today wants to be in control and is in control. And again, I'll give my wife as an example. I think she's upstairs. Um, my wife is a paper person. She loves paper. We now have a digital plan. And you know what? She's on that plan. She's calling her advisor. She's asking questions. We're not waiting for the advisor anymore. So what I think are big switches. The advisor now, that relationship is important, but they need to be ready that my clients are going to call. And they're not just calling to say, hey, the market dropped. No, it's now really thoughtful questions about, okay, listen, I want to retire 2 years earlier. Come, what do we do? What
Mhm.
does that look like? Right? I want to travel. What does that look like? And so major shift, major shift. And again, the client, to me, the client and the technology are driving. I think there's a gap. And that's where, again, what Jim is looking at, I think that has to be solved so that it becomes a win-win-win, right? Right now,
Yeah.
the technology and the client are leading, where before was the advisor and the firm.
Yeah.
Now, the technology and the client are leading, but I think the opportunities are amazing for what the advisor can do. They're needed because, like I said, the advisor is a must in this to succeed.
Yeah. Now, Johnny mentioned these advisors that, you'd go into a conversation about talk about planning, and they would say, I don't think I really need to do a plan for this. I can just talk about products. Jim, you've mentioned in the past, in conversations that we've had, that advisors are really stuck in a sales first mindset. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that, and why is that a problem in this changing world?
They're stuck in that they were groomed that way. I mean, I started
Mhm.
in 97 in the business. I grew up on the money side, but then got into the holistic modeling halfway through my career. And we were all groomed 25, 30 years ago. We were groomed on needs analysis based, whether it's risk or well side, that leads to a product solution. And so we were groomed on product based planning.
Hmm.
And that's different than walking with your clients and having conversations. And as Johnny was saying, the clients are looking for what are the options? And I love that saying Johnny just said, what are the options out there? And some of it is, I want to look at this. And the other part is, this is thrown at me. You know, so you look at that retirement mountain, if you will, is in stages, right? You have different life stages and you have different life events that come along at each stage. And so some of the life events are chosen for us and some of them we're choosing.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, the employer says, you no longer need it, Johnny. And so you go off and all of a sudden he finds himself in another great organization, but it also could be an illness. It could be a family member, moving into the house in the sandwich generation. It's unlimited, and the clients want to be able to have that conversation of what are my options.
Yeah.
And that isn't really the focus. If it is, I've got a product here, let's see where I can use that as a solution versus walking with clients in that guide mode, in that expert mode around, I've been up this retirement mountain many times before. And at each life stage, there's going to be certain things that come at us. And my role is to walk with the client, understand the environment of each life stage, but also look at the behavior patterns of our clients.
Yeah.
And that wasn't that important when I'm just trying to sell them product.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a pretty significant shift. Um, what are some of the signs that you've seen that indicates that whether it's a firm or an advisory office or a boutique's current approach to advice is no longer serving those clients or prospects? Like, how would you identify that if you were a consumer?
I think the consumer starts to disengage. I think the advisor sees it, and I've heard in the last number of years advisors saying things like it's more difficult and to get meetings with clients, that they're more hesitant to meet. Some of that could be just post-pandemic.
Hmm.
Um, but in the consumer era, the expectations have shifted. And it used to be, you're the product expert, just tell me what I need, to now it's changing. And it's changing towards what can we do together and what's possible given what we're trying to do. And those goals, as Johnny said, those goals are, dynamic. And
Yeah.
so the software and the design of it is dynamic at the smart tech, and the advice has to be much more dynamic than, I already have an idea from my research of what I want to present to this client. So no matter what happens, we're going to get to that spot. That's not what the new era is all about. And so I think what you tend to see is when those type of planning conversations start to go down that road, it's more difficult to get action from the clients now.
Hmm. Well, if you were monitoring a client's review meeting with an advisor, and you mentioned this before that some of those previous review meetings were essentially just a check 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 in terms of they have all the products in place. What are some of the other common client experiences that feel outdated or ineffective in this new modern world?
I think the core of advice doesn't change, which is analysis, solutions, and compliance driven.
Hmm.
That's still the core and the hub. But you notice that that's where compliance lies. Compliance doesn't lie in the fact we're having conversations to guide them to where they're trying to get to. And walking with clients doesn't get you into compliance challenges. I think that the change and the shift that's happening is I can have a conversation, and I think the tech is starting to be designed this way for many different conversations a year, small little conversations to bigger conversations of just touch-ins around what's changed in the life and what do we need to look at. And that's that walking with the client, just having conversations. And I think that's the big change versus the annual review, which is important for KYC, for know your product. It's all the compliance work.
Yeah.
And the compliance work is important, but it's not, I think, what generates the trust and engagement and the inspiration of the modern demands in the next. You talked at the beginning about thriving in the next decade. I
Yeah.
think it's that walking with clients, multiple touch points, and very few of them around compliance driven conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Jim, you mentioned, kind of this change in the way planning's done from this more strategic, once per year, let's review the plan, to a much more dynamic, ongoing, interactive type of approach. Johnny, maybe you can answer this. What do you see as some of the limitations to that traditional, more strategic, once per year, once per 5 years types of financial planning tools in comparison to what is being done from a much more dynamic and ongoing interactive perspective today?
Yeah, so everything that Jim was talking about, where we're at and where we're going, well, in today's, most of the traditional financial planning tools, you cannot work in real time. You cannot meet
Yeah.
the client's needs on the fly, right? Mostly the client, your client has questions, advisor will take it down. Great question. Go back to the office, rework the plan, and well, let's get back together and let's put the plan together. So that is a huge limitation today. It's no, as Jim says, no longer about, it's not just compliance. It's me. Talk to me. Talk to me. And so it's in real time, right? So today's tools, again, a conquest planning, you're in real time. You're working in real time. Some of the traditional tools even have problems keeping up with simple things like taxation and budgets. You know how many times, years ago we were all together, we hear, well, the budget update's coming in a month and a half, you know? So that's a major shift today when a tool budget comes out and 3 days later it's in the tool. So you're
Hmm.
talking in real time, real numbers. And of course, the major shift is the AI, the component, this strategic advice manager, which is this unique way of making sure, advisors, when I was at Conquest, advisors would tell me, Johnny, I missed a couple of options. I like Sam made sure that it helped me give everything possible to the client
Hmm.
because I know this, but oh my God, I totally forgot about this one. And so those are limitations that, again, today's tech, the Gen 2, the technology today, it again, the advisors have to embrace this and leverage it to their advantage. Not, I don't need this. This can absolutely take your business to levels that you cannot imagine.
Yeah, it's acting as a cognitive prosthetic, like an
Absolutely.
extension of our thought process and ensuring that we
Exactly.
don't miss things.